Good morning, everyone. We'll wait for another minute or so before more people turn up. Thank you for tuning into this webinar at 11 o'clock in the morning on a busy day. For those of you who have joined in early, thank you so much. I just want to give it another minute or so before the last minute attendees flow in, before we can start off. Okay, here we go. We crossed the number. Again, good morning, everyone. Today we're going to see what it is in the, what is happening in the infrastructure industry today and what is causing project overruns and how to avoid, project or cost overruns in infrastructure projects. I'm Vivek Ramesh. I'm the Technical Solutions Manager for AEC. So I would want you to go through the safe harbor statement. We may be making statements regarding planned or future development efforts for our existing or new products and services. So these statements are not intended to be a promise or guarantee of business results or future availability of projects. It's products. Entirely depends on the decision of the company. So another interesting thing that I wanted to point out at, of course, you will need to mention your full name and organization and official email address when you're taking up the poll survey towards the end of this webinar. There will be a lucky draw. Great news is you have a chance to win Amazon Echo and other Autodesk branded goodies during the lucky draws. The results will be published on the 18th of December 2019. The website is auindia.in/webinars. So all session and campaign related communications will be sent to your email address that you provided while registering for this session. So best of luck, and please fill out the details properly so that you'll be part of the lucky draw that we hold. So the first question comes in, like, for infrastructure projects, what could be causing the project cost overruns? Well, the first thing would be design scope changes or project scope changes, and change orders, if there's any change orders coming in from the client side, or and then disagreements between clients, contractors, and subcontractors. There's a lot of miscommunication happening between clients, contractors, and subcontractors. This may lead to a lot of time lost, which again leads to cost overruns. Labor and material cost inflation, obviously, we may not have much control over this. Inaccurate forecasting of the project itself. Well, right from the inception, design, a conceptual stage, design, and the pre-construction stage, if there is no proper forecasting or cost estimates of the project, there could be cost overruns. Underestimating time, costs, and risks of future actions. Of course, if you do not plan for the project well enough, if you do not know how much the project is going, until when the project is going to extend, what is the accurate cost estimate of the project, and if you will also have to see some of the risks involved in implementing the projects on site in context even before it is built. If you don't take into consideration these aspects, there could be resulting in cost overruns at the end of the project. And See, the site condition is one thing wherein the engineers will have to deal with a lot of labor related issues, wherein literacy is one of the major issues, or knowledge of the products, knowledge of technology could be one of the reasons. And this also leads to poor monitoring of the project at site. So this is known to be one of the biggest reasons for project cost overruns. And of course, something that we may not have control on is unforeseen events, such as severe weather conditions or other site-related accidents. So what we can really protect ourselves on, I mean, if you are a part of an engineering and architectural firm, or from a contractor side, how can you, safeguard yourself, or what points can you safeguard yourselves? Scope changes, you can be ready for that. And you change orders if quick communication happens, the changes could be quicker. And communication gaps between all the stakeholders in the project, if it's fine-tuned, you're bound to save a lot of money. And of course, inaccurate forecasting or time and cost of the project can be accurately prepared in the first place, rather than going on a to and fro basis, right? And of course, project monitoring, site management is one of the key issues wherein people lose out money. So we need to be better prepared for construction management as well. So, I mean, if these are the issues, what could be the solution for the industry itself, whether it's the buildings industry or the infrastructures, horizontal infrastructure industry? What is the solution in today's state? As you see, the buzzword here is BIM, and BIM. If you see all the tabloids reporting, always mentions BIM. Autodesk's BIM to reduce time and cost in construction, BIM to launch to avoid last-minute project cost overruns, right? How to prevent cost overruns at assembling MEP, and so on and so forth. So if you're seeing, building space has definitely embraced BIM as one of its major weapons in order to reduce cost overruns, and it is showing in many projects as well. Infrastructure industry is not far behind. Luckily, we already had the power of many 3D design tools in order to be able to step onto the BIM bandwagon. We have it, and we only need to take it further. The only thing that we're missing is the communication between different stakeholders. If this is set right, I think we're pretty much on the path. So what is it? What is the cost to owners? It is known that as per a survey, I mean, just using poor data, just the use of poor data coupled with highly fragmented teams. Now, as you know, construction industry or the infrastructure industry is a highly fragmented team. There is a survey team, there is a design team, there is a site team, so on and so forth. There is a structures team. So if these people don't connect effectively with each other, it can cost the owner huge amounts of money. So, for example, in this case, the US capital facilities industry amounts to about $15.8 billion annually just by the use of poor data and fragmented teams. If they mix with each other, you can see the kind of damage that they can do. And the owner's burden is about 2/3 of these costs. So if you're working for your client, he is likely to bear the brunt of all these expenses. So we'll need to be well prepared with our data, and we'll need to be well connected to our teams as well as we move forward. So what are the problems faced by the owners today? Well, about 60% of major capital programs fail to meet cost and schedule targets. Now, I was reading a report recently where some are saying 9 out of 10 projects are seeing cost overruns in some form or the other. So the reasons that we cited earlier could well be the reasons for this kind of result. And as you know, construction industry is one of the biggest contributors to global waste, and 30% of the construction work is either rework. So ideally, if it's rework, 30% is rework, 30% of the material is lost, and we are contributing to 30% of wastage as well, construction waste. So which is a huge thing. So this also can be reduced to a large extent if we embrace the right technologies and the right workflow for our projects. So, and also it is said that 55% of maintenance remains reactive. Nobody's assessing, nobody's assessing the problems even before it comes up to our notice. Say a classic example for infrastructure projects would be recently a flyover in Bangalore was closed out because there was a pothole which was not maintained on the flyover. It led to one portion of the flyover completely collapsing to the ground, and the entire traffic came to a standstill. So if maintenance works are done proactively, it can definitely save us a lot of cost in the life cycle of the overall project. So again, embracing BIM as a technology is giving us a lot of benefits. Well, the first and foremost, the first step towards BIM, as you know, would be 3D model, developing 3D models. Whether it is data capture or whether it is a conceptual design, detailed design, or documentation for construction that reaches out to the site, it needs to be based out of a 3D model, because you cannot go wrong with a 3D model. What is with a 3D model. So ideally, you have to embrace technologies such as reality capture, and conceptual modeling tools in order to save a lot of time and money as well. And the advantages for all the members in the project, or all the stakeholders of the project, is once you start off your foundation as a as a 3D model, it gives better project insight. So what a 3D model essentially also gives is, and as a byproduct, is its cost. And also you can link time to it. You can timeline it for better schedule and constructability. So once this has been identified and concretized, I think the project can go on with a lot more predictability, right? And users, and what happens is all through the project, the users are using the same kind of consistent data all throughout the project. So there is no to and fro between the stakeholders of projects with respect to project data itself. And time boundness will be a norm of the day. If you see BIM projects are the way people are collaborating with each other, you can assign specific responsibilities to specific people in order to invoke prompt responses, so that there is no time lost. We were sampling a few industries, and it was known that communication between teams is costing them, some companies are saying it's costing them about 20% of project overruns. 20% of the time, that now naturally translates to time, money as well. So how does BIM empower the owners? So using BIM, you can improve the infrastructure quality. Most of the building systems have come into the BIM bandwagon. Many of them have got BIM mandates. So infrastructure is quickly catching up. We have seen many projects that have been started on BIM, airport projects, railway projects, even highway projects for that matter, are being cited as BIM for infrastructure projects. So for the predictability aspect of it. So and significantly reduce infrastructure lifecycle costs, as I already said. When you save a lot of money in terms of costing, timelining, and predictability of the project, you will also have better, lifecycle costs as well. And many of them felt that they understood the project better right from the inception, well towards the end, and they could trace what's going wrong, and they can make quick corrections. And Operational efficiencies as well. When it comes to the maintenance phase as well, people felt that having BIM models really helped them a lot in terms of maintaining the overall project. So overall, there's a lot of transparency, efficiency, and the quality is maintained when you embrace the BIM workflow. So I'm talking a lot of BIM concepts, but this may relate to how we can link it to our infrastructure industry and what is missing in today's industry that we can embrace, that we can touch upon. So when I say move to BIM, like many people might think 3D modeling will get us there almost, but many things are missed. So if you don't use a string of workflows or products, maybe your BIM workflow may not be fulfilled completely. So what is the benefits of BIM outright? If you see the extreme right, greater cost predictability. This alone, cost predictions alone can save a lot of project overruns. So once you prepare your estimates right, I think you have better control on the overall project. So you're most likely to miss the target, not miss the target. There are fewer errors. In fact, at the design stage itself or the construction stage, there are a lot fewer errors. It is said that any change at site, from a building's perspective for the moment, costs roughly about $1,000 on the lower scale for every change. So if one change could cost you $1,000, imagine the kind of number of errors that might crop up in a project. So that's the amount of money you're likely to save. Improved scheduling, schedule improvement. They feel 85% of them felt they improved their schedule, which in turn translates to site, and contractors are also able to plan out the projects well enough, space it out well enough so that they are right on time, so that there's no cost overruns. And optimized design again leads to optimized costing, which again in turn reflects on the overall project costs, and there's no cost overruns. So how does BIM save owners time and money throughout the building life cycle? There's design, construction, and management of the property, right? So if you consider some of the products for design, construction, and management, or you have a definitive workflow for design, construction, and facility management, you're pretty much set there, because there's no loss in data or there's no loss in communication. So at the conceptual stage itself, what is the biggest advantage? Now, in today's date, from infrastructure standpoint, many of them, I've seen many of the contractors, design consultants and architects are using the power of InfraWorks. InfraWorks has the capability to quickly generate options, design options, so that clients can take quicker decisions. Public opinion can also be quickly taken even before the project starts off. More often than not, we've seen that the project is getting delayed owing to public outrage or decisions taken by the clients, owners themselves. So this can be reduced a lot at a concept stage itself. I suggest you embrace InfraWorks right from the word go, because it gives you better in context visualization. So coming to sustainable design as well, it doesn't apply. I mean, it is a fact to think that sustainability is only meant for the buildings. No, sustainability can also be reflected on infrastructure projects. Say, for example, if you have lesser number of structures, or you have optimized materials, you're already sustainable. So if you plan enough well in order to avoid green spaces, if you plan enough well to avoid settlements, urban settlements, you're already sustainable. So whatever project which has least impact on people, economy, and ecology will be a sustainable model. So it also can be applied to what is that, infrastructure project. So not only that, use the power of BIM plus GIS. Now that Autodesk has the power of BIM plus GIS, bring in your GIS samples for a better project planning in order to have a sustainable design. Post that is where infrastructure companies were struggling. So as you know, BIM 360 design, BIM 360 docs was introduced for specifically a building audience. But here, the latest release of Civil 3D collaboration for Civil 3D for BIM 360 design allows horizontal infrastructure projects also to be incorporated for design documentation and collaboration. That gives us a huge shot in the arm, wherein we can say that even infrastructure projects can be worked out of a common data environment. So documentation will be easy, documentation will be controlled, and it'll be traceable from all phases. So for construction as well, even before construction, what does happen? Like a contractor takes into account the constructability of the design itself. So he will go through a set of brainstorming sessions, whether the design is right, is it constructible, are there any complications on site. He will have, if there are any complications on site, he will need to inform it back to the designers, or he might as a lot or employed designers, or in most cases it may be the EPC that is in charge. Okay, and then communication should not go amiss along with project constructability. And life cycle costs, say for example, an infrastructure project, a township project has come up, and they want to extend the township project to a larger area. The classic example would be Chandigarh. Chandigarh's plans was extended into cities like Mohali and Panchkula. What if the data was already there with the designers? It would make their life so much more simple. So after the city reaches a maturity, city model reaches a maturity level, it needs extensions or improvements. So this can be reused. The data hence produced in the first phase itself can be reused and for remodeling and new modeling as well. So overall, the USP is to have a base 3D model right from the word go, right from the survey and conceptual design stage. So what is the ROI? What is the return on investment on BIM? So generally, it was said that virtual BIM and virtual design construction across supply chain could enhance the industry productivity up to 9% is what the study was said. But then some companies are reporting 500%. Some companies are reporting 300% of a return on investment on BIM technologies. So definitely it is a win-win situation wherein you implement BIM on a project, it is bound to give you returns. And the future of the project lifecycle is going digital. Well, in today's date, most of the buildings and infrastructure are being replicated in context so that it is you can better manage the civil public properties or private properties, as the case may be. In the era of connection, you can have your entire city model on your palm top. It is as simple as that. So the power of BIM also percolates into digital twins and digital systems for better connected physical world. So in today's date, how do we rate the data connectivity or data continuity? Say for example, a designer completes his design work and pushes it to the engineer. As the engineer receives it, if you can see the white graph, there is a delay by the time the engineer completely understands the project and then starts off his part of the work. And then once the engineer transmits his part of the work to the contractor, again the contractor takes some time to understand what the engineers and designers have done, and then again transmits it back to the owner after the construction phase. And the owner itself, of course, with such a huge, rich source of data, will take his own time into moving into the next project. So there is delay at every phase of the project. So what we intend to do is have all the stakeholders on one platform, and then have them continuously be up to date about what they're working on, so that there's no delay in data translation. So the green graph is what we intend to achieve by connecting all the stakeholders in the project effectively. So we need to be on a common platform. In today's date, the designer, engineer, contractor are all working in their own environments. They don't tend to connect with each other seamlessly. So right from the word go, how do we, just a minute, let me just say this hand up. So right from the word go, are we utilizing it? So if I were to play this video, you can see that, I mean, if you envisage a project, maybe say, for example, you're working on a bridge project in our city. How are you going about the designs? Are you using InfraWorks? Even if you are using InfraWorks, are you communicating your design intent with your client? No. Say if you have started publishing your InfraWorks models, and if you have started publishing the models to the clients to be seen on their desktops, you're already communicating or moving in the right manner. So all of you know that InfraWorks models can be published over to BIM 360, or you can have an instance of InfraWorks models right when you create it in InfraWorks. A model replication will happen in a BIM 360 environment as well, right? And from InfraWorks, you can have various stakeholders come in and take a look. Say, for example, bridge engineers, highway engineers, surveyors, all of them can have a look. If survey engineers are likely to, just a minute, I'll just break for. Sorry about that delay. So if you have, say, if you have envisaged your project in terms of the existing ground, the structural design or the highway design aspects in various, to various stakeholders, and you've showcased this, and then if you have worked on an agreement to say, yes, this is the design we need to move forward, it has already saved you a lot of time. So this in turn will reflect on the project cost overruns. Whether, say, if I'm talking purely in terms of the engineering consultant or the architecture standpoint, it has already saved me a cost for me, this communication. So I insist that you start with whoever is using InfraWorks, start communicating through BIM 360 with your various project stakeholders, so that you have proper documentation of the communication going on the design intent. Secondly, the Trinity, connected tools for construction simulation. Now, what do we have? Say, when we go to a customer, we always ask, you as customers, we will also have to really ask yourselves, are we planning, designing, and engineering it in the right manner? Are we using the right tools? What I mean by the Trinity is a combination of InfraWorks, Civil 3D, and Navisworks. So as I told you earlier, the initial concept designs and say, for example, stormwater drains can be churned out quickly to save time in InfraWorks, and the model can be pushed over to Civil 3D. In Civil 3D, you can fine tune it and then start churn out a string of documentations for this. Is everybody doing this? No. Once Civil 3D models are ready, it can be pushed over to Navisworks for clash detection and timelining. You can also add the time factor. So right at this stage, many successful engineering firms, you name it, AECOM, Khatib-Alami, L&T also, even before they churn out a model, they are developing clash-free models before it goes to construction. That itself is saving I don't thousands and thousands of crores in terms of rework. So are we timelining it right, using the right tools? So I suggest, if you want to start off on better cost project predictability and outcomes, I would suggest a combination of InfraWorks, Civil 3D, and Navisworks. So obviously we might miss out on something else also beyond that. So we will see touch upon those points as well. What is missing in today's infrastructure industry? In the industry today, there is also a problem on connecting sites and buildings. For those of you working in a multidisciplinary, consultancy, which houses architecture, civil engineering aspects as well. So this is something that you need to take a look at. Off late, I was in Kerala meeting a particular client. They were saying that we are having problems sharing our Revit models onto InfraWorks or onto Civil 3D. How do we do it? If you've heard about shared coordinate systems in Civil 3D, which is respected in Revit as well, you can take any 2 points and reference it and send it to Revit. You can align this Revit model to the exact geographic coordinate system so that there is no data missing there, right? You know exactly where the project is coming up. So vice versa, once the design is complete in Revit, you can bring the Revit files back to the Civil 3D environment and you utilize it in the native format or in the CAD format. So as you know, Navisworks is the aggregator. You can have your recap models, you can have your Revit models and Civil 3D models combined into Navisworks as well. And what the shared coordinate data in Civil 3D does is it gives you the capability to combine the entire model, which is the civil model and the survey model and the buildings model all in one place, so that the aerial imagery may well be a little bit old, but you will at least have the right terrain to start off with. And with the tools like AEC Collections, you can effectively utilize the workflow, recap, Civil 3D, Revit, Navisworks, and then be able to combine all these models into InfraWorks. So I would suggest you utilize a combination of these tools in order for site and buildings. If you're not doing it, please use the shared coordinate system. This is one of the most common queries that we are getting in today's date. So if I have to just play again, please remember this in Civil 3D. Shared coordinate system. I would always want you to share your coordinate system. For those civil engineers who are surveyors working with architects and other designers, I would want you to share your coordinate system and then have the project started. If you've done this, half of your coordination issues will be resolved, right? So that said, okay, we've seen that we can collaborate during concept design stage. We can collaborate or use the effective tools to collaborate at the design stage itself, like tools like Civil 3D, Navisworks, InfraWorks, Recap, and so on. But overall, what is the connectivity? Say, for example, the architect may be in Delhi, the civil engineer may be based out of Hyderabad. And the other people, the surveyors may be somewhere from Chennai, and they're trying to connect with each other. How do we link all these three people without any delay? In today's date, if I were to sample a set of customers, they'd say coordination has become the biggest problem for us. We are sending out emails, we are sending out WhatsApp messages, we are sending out pictures over WhatsApp in order to coordinate with the project stakeholders, which is becoming increasingly difficult. So what that led us to think is in terms of connecting all the various stakeholders on a common platform. So So what Civil 3D, collaboration with Civil 3D for BIM 360 design does is it seamlessly connects Civil 3D data to all different stakeholders, whether it is surveyors, whether it is designers, project managers, or others, contractors. It gives you a seamless platform for utilizing Civil 3D files. So BIM 360 collaboration for for Civil 3D allows you to effectively collaborate between various teams. If you see, there is always problems. Say, for example, surveyors are sending out files to us. It is not reaching the designers on time, or the designers may not understand what is the latest version. Or designers, once they design, the project manager doesn't understand what files need to be reviewed. In this case, let us take an example. A surveyor, publishes the project over to BIM 360. A roadway designer consumes the same model over to his Civil 3D, desktop Civil 3D, designs the roadway, and then the draftspersons or the engineering tech team churns out cross section from that referenced model, and the project manager reviews and creates issues if there are any design related issues. So in this manner, you can effectively communicate with all your project teams without any delay. So very recently, we have released this BIM 360 design for Civil 3D collaboration. I suggest you start utilizing it because there are a number of things that have been added. Say, for example, you can now create data shortcuts. I'm sure most of you on this call know about Civil 3D, know about data shortcuts. I suggest you start creating data shortcuts on the BIM 360 design site itself and start consuming the models right from there. This gives you a very, very streamlined method, and it also has many other features that I'll explain in the next slide. So I want you to take a note of your project in this manner. I mean, if you're in design or you're authoring, collaboration, and detailing, are you using a multitude of products? Are you interacting with a lot of stakeholders in the project? Please utilize the BIM 360 platform, right? It is very data centric, and even at the pre-construction stage, you'll be able to take critical decisions on clash detection, constructability, and coordination, which saves a lot of project overruns. And field execution itself, how you take the data to the field, that alone is a big problem for today's contractors or designers. How contractors are marking up issues to the designers is also a big communication gap, and we want to be able to resolve these issues. And handover and operation, obviously, how as-built drawings are being assimilated in a particular environment, how they are being handed over. This also is costing a lot of time. So all this can be considered for cost savings in an overall project lifecycle standpoint. And I suggest start off with BIM 360 design for Civil 3D collaboration. Of course, you also have others third-party application that can enrich the overall experience, but I won't go much into it. Let's see how design collaboration itself for BIM 360 design helps us in better collaboration. Okay, even before I start this off, I would want, why I'm emphasizing on BIM 360 design collaboration with Civil 3D is that communication between different stakeholders is becoming a major factor for project overruns. So we intend to resolve this first. So what you will have to need Civil 3D 2020.2 in order to have this facility of BIM 360 design for Civil 3D collaboration. Once you installed it, you need the desktop connector, and you can directly start creating data shortcuts. Now, say for example, a surveyor creates a BIM 360 instance for survey files. You can create, as a project admin, you can create or add different project team members and assign them permissions. And the beauty of BIM 360 team is that you'll be able to have individual file level security. You can lock it, unlock it for people, accessibility to people. And whether you're working with a number of project stakeholders, or if you're working with a particular set of team, you'll be able to effectively able to manage all the informations. Now we have version control now. Earlier, version control for infrastructure projects was a challenge. Now, effectively, you'll be able to identify versions between each other, and if you want to revert to or restore to previous version, that is also possible. Similar to the buildings scenario. And say, for example, if you were the manager, you'll be able to identify or mark out or create issues for that particular design and assign it to a particular person. And that person gets an intimation saying that this is where you have to make changes. You'll make the changes and then update it in the entire project. So there is no ambiguity in terms of who communicates to whom and who's got the responsibility of the design change or design model. So this saves a lot of time in overall team collaboration. Coming to the last bit, which is the real battleground, the field. We recently, off late, also we contracted a lot of infrastructure contractors, and we try to understand what issues they're facing on the field. The first and foremost thing that they came up with is documentation for design for construction. Documentation for construction ruled the roost when it came to the number one issue, what they were facing on field. So are we as designers pushing the right information to the contractors to construct, or are the contractors giving us the right feedback with respect to what is happening on site? The designer also needs to understand from the contractor what is happening at site so that he can make the right design changes. Are these things coming in place? So off late, as you know, Autodesk has procured a company called PlanGrid, which completely handles construction management, field management basically. And the documentation is so simple to use that many firms are embracing this PlanGrid for field documentation as well. So PlanGrid is a final solution on the in project lifecycle. We've seen design collaboration. We've seen design tools which can be used for project, controlling project overruns, cost overruns. In this case, the last and the most important bit is how you take design documentation to the field and how you document it. So PlanGrid allows you in a very quick manner to access drawings, relevant drawings, the latest versions of the drawings. If this contractors or engineers at field find an issue, they'll be directly able to mark up the issue and then send it across to the designer. So the designer knows exactly where the problem is, what corrections he needs to make. So this alone from the contractor side is allowing the owners to be able to save tons and tons of money. So are we taking the right path in field documentation or field management? Please consider PlanGrid, because off late we've also come to know that if you're contractors on this call here, if field documentation, field management is an issue, and you don't want to carry those A4, A1, A0 size sheets to the field, or and then be able to lose them or not find sense in them, please consider carrying digital data to the field and make the difference in terms of communication. So PlanGrid is proven to have saved millions and millions of dollars for contractors and owners alike. So I suggest considering such solutions for better project outcomes. So coming to the end of it, I'm open to questions for the next 10 minutes. And just one other thing, as in the next couple of minutes, We will also open the floor to the poll as well. It's a simple 3-question poll. Please answer the poll whether, what kind of industry you belong to. Was this webinar relevant to you? The reason being, it's an evolution for us. We are churning out a number of webinars for customers, but we also want to be able to understand whether we are delivering the right content, or even if you want the right content, are we providing the right amount of information to you to be able to for you to be able to use it in your day-to-day workflows. So please feel free to reach out and take the poll survey, and please remember that there is a lucky draw. You can win Amazon Echo and other Autodesk goodies. The results will be announced on the 18th of December on the AU India/webinar website that I talked about earlier. So, okay, let me take the questions up. Let us know where we can access the previous webinars in YouTube. Unfortunately, Balaji, we haven't posted it on YouTube as yet, but the webinars will be emailed to your email address. So if you are requesting for information, please reach out with your email address so that we can give you earlier webinars as well. The videos are being recorded and you can get access to that as well. How many projects in India have been implemented with the full BIM process? Just a minute, I'm just taking questions now. How many projects in India have implemented the full BIM process, including even implementing plan grade on site? Well, Manish, yeah, many projects have a BIM implementation of BIM mandates coming up. In today's date, so I want to take an example of Bangalore International Airport, effectively coming the full circle. So, for example, they're using a combination of our products along with the power of BIM 360 to be to implement the full design, the full BIM process. And they're also now considering plan grade. We also had a product called BIM 360 Field, but they're also considering the product plan grade for site operations as well. Could you please, could you please show us any tips and tricks in next session on software? Surely, Bajrang, Mr. Bajrang, I want you to understand what products you need tips and tricks on so that we can focus on the same. Can you please repeat on how shared coordinates work on Civil 3D? Savita, if I were to go back to the slide here, just a minute, let me go back to the shared coordinates for Civil 3D. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. This is a request from Ms. Savita, who's asking how shared coordinates worked in Civil 3D. Right? You can either type this as a keyword at the command line. You can get shared coordinate system. At this point, shared coordinate system, the way it works is, if you see the window there, I don't know if you can see it at this juncture. So you will need to take any 2 points, right? Export. You see that in the Autodesk shared reference point in the reports toolbox. You can right click and take any 2 points. You can take any 2 points in the Civil 3D drawing and then export it to Revit. That's how it works. I hope I answered your question, Savita. Okay. W.S. Atkins. Okay. Mr. Khurshid Jahan, you've provided your name and email address. I haven't seen a question from you. So please fill it out the right columns. Revit and Civil. Okay, Amit Chaubal, what would you want on Revit and Civil? Could you please expand? We are producing almost all projects on BIM level 2. Okay, on Civil 3D. So Mr. Bajrang wants to be able to have Civil 3D tips and tricks in one of the future webinars. Definitely, Mr. Bajrang, will take your request into account. We will also do tips and tricks for Civil 3D in the next webinar so that you can effectively utilize it. How can we collaborate Revit model and Civil 3D without BIM collaboration? Well, see, Mr. Amit, ideally, the Civil 3D model or the ground model needs to be consumed in Revit for the design phase. If you're not taking into consideration the finished ground levels from Civil 3D, your design may go wrong, or you may be designing without a proper information. So I would suggest, even without BIM 360 collaboration, you have the ability to export Civil 3D surfaces and consume them in Revit in the form of drawings or in the form of solids. You can do that, or ideally, as Ms. Savita also asked, shared coordinate system is very critical for Revit projects utilizing it from Civil 3D. Okay, how can we move shared coordinate system to original coordinate system? See, Mahendra, in the first place, see, Revit also consumes the shared coordinate system model. It will align itself. You will be able to align Revit buildings to those reference points exported from Civil 3D. That's how you're supposed to do. Only thing is, you need to be on the right metric, unit system, whether it's imperial or metric. Both need to be the same. We're using Civil 3D, Revit, Recap, and BIM 360 design. That's wonderful to know, Mr. Bajrang. You're already on track, right? You utilize InfraWorks also to, assimilate the model, the overall model. It will help you a lot. Mahendra CS. Okay, Mahendra CS from WSP. How to fix LOI in this? Well, I didn't understand the question, Mr. Soma. You can be more elaborate on that. Most projects shown here are large scale. What about local architects and contractors for small scale projects like residences? Is it? Just a minute, let me see the question. Is it still worthwhile implementing BIM for such projects? Well, Mr. Manish, definitely yes, because from a project predictability standpoint or the overall time savings that you would end up with, and also going by the mandates that we are receiving from the governments as well, I would suggest you move to BIM, because even if you have started off from small scale projects like residences, it will help you in the largest projects, because scalability is always there with BIM. So I suggest you move to the BIM platform. It would be nice if you can have a webinar on Navisworks and InfraWorks in future as well, as we don't have enough. Okay, Mrs. Savita is asking future sessions on Navisworks and InfraWorks. Surely, Mrs. Savita, we'll consider that. Any particular topics in Navis and InfraWorks will also help us in order to give you the right content. What are the best tools for scan to BIM? Would you like to know which is the tool that Autodesk supports? Well, BLK 360 is, Mr. Kishore, BLK 360 is made for Autodesk Recap. So Recap is the best tool for scan to BIM. Once you move it to Recap, you have to move it to software such as Civil 3D or Revit in order to develop the 3D model. Trinity tools, as you shared, Navisworks, InfraWorks, and Civil 3D. Will this directly collaborate with BIM 360 design? Yes. Mr. Khurshid Jahan, yes. Ideally, I would suggest having a combination of InfraWorks and Civil 3D into BIM 360 to be able to collaborate well enough. How can I get webinar recording? Mr. Rajiv, this webinar recording will be sent over to your email address. Please make sure you have sent the right email address. Can we add level of information? Well, level of information for civil models, it depends on what you're looking for. Yes, you can customize Civil 3D models also for the kind of information that you want to add to specific items. But for infrastructure projects, you may not need such level of details as compared to what it is for building. So, for example, door, make of the door, what is the texture, what is the detailing for the fixtures, what is the manufacturer's name. All this may not be required for loading for civil models as well. Okay, we are presently working on 2019 Civil 3D. We are facing issues with data shortcuts. We've tested and found that data shortcuts won't work properly. Well, Mr. Dharmendra, we'll be happy to give you more content on data shortcuts. The only thing that you need to take care of is setting the right working folder and the right location. Ideally, I think the data shortcut is not working because it is not referencing the right kind of files. So, need any information on data shortcuts, reach out to us and we can help you out. Or ideally reach out to your resellers also. They also will be able to help you out on data shortcuts. How can we incorporate landscape into collaboration? Can we use Civil 3D or Revit? Ketchup import? Well, ideally you will have to have landscape information into Revit and then move it to BIM 360, Mr. Amit. Okay, because Recap Pro is not able to handle more than 20 scans. Mr. Kishore, well, we've seen large scale recap scans, but we'll have to see why it is not taking more than 20 scans. I don't think it is the issue, but we'll have to reevaluate that. Please have one of our resellers, if you are in touch with any of our resellers, they can come over to your place and then have a look at what is the size of the scans. BIM 360 data shortcuts, yes, Mr. Dharmendra, BIM 360 now supports data shortcuts for Civil 3D. For coordination, we are using Navisworks. Could you please provide future Navisworks webinar? Yes, Mr. Rajiv. If you want specifically Navisworks related webinars, we can get it to you. You're welcome, Mr. Kushid. Can you please share a few companies' names who are using BIM solution for their projects? So, Ms. Savita, many companies are using, of course, right from L&T. If you want the helm of engineering in India, L&T itself is spearheading, BIM solutions. Using RCP, I wanted to compare that with BIM model to understand the undulation on site. Yes, you can superimpose the RCP files on top of the existing BIM models. Yes, you can do that and see if there's any deviation or discrepancy. Only thing is it needs to be georeferenced well. The RCP file needs to be georeferenced properly. Can we have webinar on Dynamo, Saswata? Yes, there will be a session on Dynamo. We can request for that. Civil 3D, we are only architectural and structure. MEP also we cannot use. We only for architecture and structure. MEP, well, ideally, Civil 3D is not meant for that usage. Civil 3D we can use, so any session on how to perform analysis on scan data vs BIM model will be really helpful. Sure, we'll look at that, Mr. Kishore. These questions will be taken up for future webinars. If this is popular amongst the crowd, definitely we'll be able to help you out. Otherwise, we can push the information through our resellers so that you'll consume that. Oh, thank you, Mr. Vijay Kumar. I hope you liked the presentation. Data shortcuts are working fine in 2020.2, but need subscription on BIM 360 service. Yes, Mr. Bajrang, you need subscription for BIM 360 services. Yes, you will need to enroll for that. Recap mesh to solid utility is stopped. Yeah, mesh to solid has been stopped. Rendering advanced steel plant setup with background assets. Well, you'll have to be a little bit more elaborate, Mr. Venkatesh. Can we have a session on plan grid? Definitely, Mr. Karthik Kumar. We will see whether, Mr. Karthik, do you want to have plan grid session for building projects, or you want to have plan grid session for infrastructure projects? We want to understand that. Can we import 3D model to Recap? Well, Recap only supports scan data, LIDAR data, or photographic data from various sources such as drones and mobile devices and so on, stationary devices and so on, Mr. Mahindra. Okay, building projects. Yes, we can, Karthik. We'll have a full-fledged webinar in the near future. Maybe look out in sometime in January. We'll deliver sessions on PlanGrid. This is probably something which is interesting. Lots and lots of customers. I'm sure. Keep an eye out for PlanGrid as well. Dynamo, yes, lots of questions coming up on Dynamo. We can have sessions on Dynamo. Dynamo for building projects or infrastructure projects, you need to, tell us. Okay, so PlanGrid and Dynamo are some of the topics which are interesting people. Okay, so we'll take it into account. Recently, we worked on facility management, work in Bluebeam software. We extract all the data from Revit model, and after that, we integrate it with Bluebeam. But we want Revit itself as facility management option. That is possible. Well, Rajiv, facility management, Bangalore International Airport was using Revit for facility management, and so definitely they were sourcing, QR codes through Revit models using Dynamo for facility management. See, Mr. Vijay Kumar, Dynamo is a parametric modeling tool which accelerates design process. You have some parameters based on which you can have the design automated. Say, for example, a complex fascia for a building, an undulating fascia for a building, or you want to be able to provide electricity lines throughout a civil 3D model. That can be automated, things like that. So it can save a lot of iterations and can resolve complex geometry. So I think we are at the top of the hour. 2 minutes overboard. Thank you everyone for staying the course of this presentation. We'll look forward to you winning more prizes on the 18th. Keep a lookout on the website. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Hello everyone. So we are coming towards the end of the session. We'll be having these poll questions. So we'll be filling up the poll questions, and we request your response. Just give me a moment while I pull it up.
For those of you present on the call, the poll is open now. Please select. Please vote out in the polling section. I don't want you to lose out on the goodies that Autodesk is providing in the lucky draw. For those of you present on the call, please answer the poll questions. It is very important for us to understand what the customers are expecting from Autodesk.
Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for taking your time and attending the session. Please do look forward to a survey email which will come to you after the session. So please do take out time and fill the survey. We want to hear from you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day then.
For those of you still on the call, please fill out this polls. For those of you who haven't exited the session, please, there is a poll section